this vault.
You have to talk louder.
Oh, sorry.
Or closer.
Yeah. It reminds me when I was in college, I had a job in a deli that was in an old bank building, and there were tables in the vault. I got fired from that job. I was very frightened of the meat slicer. I am going to read some poems about car crashes, actually, and many of them are set near the Cherokee Indian Reservation in the Smoky Mountains. Well, my father's family lives outside of it, near it, and near the Nantahala Forest, which is a beautiful primeval forest, a kind of rainforest. That is where the Cherokees hid, the few that were able to stay in North Carolina when Jackson was marching everyone to Oklahoma. This one is called Cherokee Roadkill. Every year, spring snow sugars the roads, and a lank-haired son of Sequoia High closes curving lashes in colory and opens them elsewhere. Some son like Kenny Arrowhead, who kisses me in the back of a Corvette, or like his brother who strangles his wife, then crashes the curve. Kissing we drank from a clay-sided well, dank, sweaty as our upper lips, spicy ferns sprouting from the creek bank, cool as tongue. Stars bob like fishing lures in a cleft of the Smokies, and Kenny blazes into Nantahala in his Jeep Cherokee, fleeing his sister-in-law's ghost. Maybe he eats wrinkled berries of juniper and vomits pine. Maybe he snaps bloodroot to sip red sap, or steps on a red-boned cottonmouth flat as dollar bills and just as quick to strike. My fists pull lady slipper, trillium, Virginia snakeroot, medicinals, cash crops from the red clay banks of Pisgah, horse balm and turtleheads smoked in clay pipes of hags. Gingery as ginseng, this curve. Kenny Arrowhead dares God as he guns shoulderless bends like a believer, 30, 40, 45 into hairpins. It is up Pisgah. On a glistening washboard turn, he rolls in the snow. Cherokee roadkill, kids call it. Drive to Cullowhee, pay a soul to buy at the package store, chug-a-lug. Drive back on craggy curves that curve back upon curves. Whoever don't flash a brake light wins. Cursing, I cry, Kenny. A throttled gasp, like his own when he was flicked into the pools of Pisgah where God, deep and silts sinking, a whiskery catfish, cruises the cold reaches. What dark movements rill the surface of what he breathes? So that was Kenny, who I was inspired by this boy I knew in high school, whose brother did kill his wife. And this is about his wife, the pharmacy clerk, Bryson City. She ferries scripts from counter to pharmacist's hutch, diabetics, widows with nerves, vets with invisible quivering limbs. She grows rich in prescriptions, Oxy, Halcyon, Prozac, Lipitor, amoxicillin, Percocet, Dilaudid, fits and violent fits, melancholic stupors, anxious drumming on the counter. She presses the keys of the register, a numerological accounting, pay for drugs, drugs pay. And sometimes she rose from the center of need into the golden frieze of fulfillment, avoiding the diamond-tipped noses of the rattled addict, the red-boned eyes of a cotton-mouthed addict, gasping trout leaping from the stream. She can hear the click, click, click slide into the slot of her own brain, red lozenge of gnome. And this one is about I knew this lovely woman who worked at the bookstore in my town, which was of course a Christian bookstore, who was very kind to me and recommended things to read. She actually tutored at the local jail and ended up having a relationship with someone who got out, and he killed her. So I've written poems about her and some poems about him. And this is about him when he's a little boy. It's called Hogscape. Peel me a switch, Pops said, dragging him. All the kids calibrated heft to swish, reading the pick of the switch, welts on shins that draw blood or only blister. The hog pen was barren of grass, leaf, or any bush except poison sumac passed into hog lore. Hog pack, like 350-pound fish, flanked him, rippling, sides bristling, jaws scooping slops. His father told him, carry a stick. The boy carried buckets, slopping his sneakers with hamburger scraps, dollops of cream corn, heels of loaves and tomatoes, cabbage cores. He tipped into the rough trough and nimble, quick, hogs shouldered like choristers into a pew, wrinkling tensile snouts like chestnut halves, snuffling pulp and half-chaw. Pop said, those hogs will nibble to the tasty eyeball. Scratch. And this is the same man. There's only one funny thing in here. He talks about mess. And I used to teach for the Bard Prison Initiative, and I remember in class saying, oh, are you going to the cafeteria? And one of my students said, mess, not cafeteria, mess. So, scratch. It was in jail it struck him. It wasn't chickens he hated, but their multitude. Scratching sawdust with spurred claws, sequins pinned where eyes go. Not watching as you shack between oak roots, then waded into Kathy's Creek and sluiced off chicken creosote. One time, the first time he killed, he'd filled the plastic globed water trays and the metal feed trays and was moving the old wood door that kept the halt from the healthy, a chicken'll peck to death a sick peer. When a rooster, spurs cycling, launched into air near his ear, and the door slipped to the barn floor and flattened chicken to a hammered nail. Blood beaded its undid beak, like something you lick. It was like mess, that scratch and caw of roosters at the feeders. Here, too, he scooped feed into troughs, stink of salt and powdered potato goop. He and Pops had lived in one raw room off the horse barn, the two under a chenille counterpane in the chill of 4 a.m., pigeons fluttering above the plywood ceiling, cuckoo, cuckoo. That was the year of throwing pebbles at passing cars, 1975, and acid puddles at the A&P, a rat peeking from the cardboard stack. On the street, some reservation brave, feathered for tourists. Alki Cherokee, $5 a snapshot. Next block, a black bear in a wire box, dancing, $5. The bear wavered like a bad signal, thick spit in its near toothless mouth, lips black as mud. He wanted to stone that bear wet. He would scratch his name into it in brain, the drugstore grave, the dancing bear. Either, neither, both. And then this is called Barbecue, and it's actually for Gretchen Primack, who died yesterday, who is a very admirable and radical vegan. And we tease each other a lot. Barbecue. They say a cock crowed when Peter denied our Savior. Red comb like chawed meat, skull full of beans. But even Jesus knew chicken's got a doodle-doo. Wasps. We cohabitate with yellow jackets, mime their dressage of amber thorax, black stockinged feelers, severe knobs of head and tail. One a heavy horn of venom, the other masked. A hive is a house, is a town, is a county, is a state, thrumming within and stunted without. Press your head against the porous plaster of my house as I press my ear against your chest. There's the thrumming you expect, the buzz of the banal, but this formula has been altered. I could have been born a cardboard cone on a winding machine, a human bobbin shut as each skein wound and unwound, the human tender's arms going like pinwheels, empty and full, blurred wings. I could have been born a tongue, sounding among dirt daubers and mill workers' cottages. Oh wait, I was. Okay, one last car crash. There was the first crash on Kill Devil where my cousin crimped like a dog's ear the phone pole. They cut him from Chevy's metal skull with oversized shears. Teen King Stanley, my man, cracked up. This was in Cullery, Valley of the Lilies in Cherokee, an infinity for braves overwhelmed by the sickly scent of blood. They would suck Lily's sweetness into their ochre nostrils and hunt the buck again. Stanley's buck teeth gouged asphalt as he unstrung my pretty crew-cut red skin. Chevy's radio, tuned to Grand Funk Railroad's I'm Your Captain. So cool, this engine's Sunday school aid. Broken here and here. A resident scotch-taped Stanley's backbone to the buckboard, inflated his lungs with a bike pump, and we women, Bonnie, Sharon, limbs pricked by bristling shoots, and the world's regard, every eye winking. Pleasures in your chestnut hair, virgin, clavicle and expansive hip, and modesty. Could such purity undertake moss and muscle, the tuft of a grafted hyphenate? He. At 15, you've conned the cartilaginous nub that signifies containment, sufficiency, genus. But believe me, Juniper, even your name is slivers of apple and a distilled kick. No, let you and I be decidedly cups and presence of insects, we in feminine profusion. And then I thought I'd read 3 poems from this, which is another series, my previous series, which I worked on for years. Years. And then it took about 3 years for Diane to do these beautiful illustrations, which she would not call illustrations, by the way, she hates that. But I thought I'd just read the first poem in the book, which is called The Education of the Virgin. I was very interested in how, when I was preparing to have my first child, everything was sort of little yellow ducks and pastel blue and pink. And then I had him, and it was all blood. And, you know, a tiled room that could be sluiced down afterwards, and really, you know, harsh. And I thought, you know, that's pretty extraordinary, what I just went through. Just the dismemberment of me in some way. How incredible. How incredible this is. I needed something more than those ducks. I needed a superhero, some kind of goddess. And I thought, well, what about the Virgin Mary? I mean, there she is. So powerful in her patience and tolerance and forgiveness. But I wanted to kind of recreate her in various other guises, as a cigarette machine, as they mentioned, as a pelican, as an old lady watching Johnny Carson. And in this one, it's called The Education of the Virgin, which is an art historical trope. They're often in the Gothic period showed the Virgin Mary preparing for the Annunciation. She'd be reading books, and she'd be in an enclosure that was of the new architecture, and there was the old crumbling church on the other side. So she represented the modern. So this one is mine, and I'll just show you the pictures first. Because I spent a lot of time in the library at Story Hour doing this kind of thing. So I'll give you some sense of I wanted these to be comics, and would have preferred, actually, if this was published in a softback, with kind of substandard paper. But this one came out too. You can see it for all the lights. So these are all from the different stanzas, and my poems are in the balloons and in the captions, my words rather. And then this one, which is my favorite one because it's the most garish and violent of them all. Okay. The Education of the Virgin. Virgin Mary has never ventured in the caves of Texas, where bats, little shudders, breed like bad memories. She has none, no packed bags at the Union Station, where bats press themselves flat against the peeling ceiling. No shuddering regrets electrify her epidermis like the flit of a donkey's ear. This defines her innocence. The sadness she feels for souls consigned to places always cold, where the only lights are those flickers of conscience we bring with us. She did it only once, and that was a Eucharistic moment, the apotheosis of grace, as if her womb were lined with communion wafers. It's God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in there, swallowed, perhaps, and passed with a kiss through nether lips. Virgin Mary never goes where she is unwanted. She bows her head to the ecstatic eradicators, tribe haters, sex haters, haters of the poor. If her hovel is bulldozed, she has a cousin in Babylonia. Although moving for Virgin Mary predicates cosmological occurrences, avian messengers, and then there are the tickets and checkpoints. She turns her palms to heaven, a fine dust collects. Life was a book, Virgin Mary calmed, until that death, so public, sap dripping along his legs, slow as the delineation of error from justice, getting down the body, unhooking his hands like drapes from a rod, only to stop a hole. And then the last one in the book is called Madonna Bomb. And I have read that a number of the suicide bombers they found were old women who had been, their hands had been taped to the steering wheel and their feet to the accelerator. So that was, I found it very interesting. So this is the explosion. This print is actually 8 feet long. It's on display on exhibit right now in Washington State. Madonna Bomb. There are no words to describe the way she hunches, belly resting on thigh, key turned on, and she cannot turn it off, working the brake with her other foot. It's hard to see into the distance, sitting like that. She drives a dichotomous street, the blood flowing in and out, birth and death, every turn leading to this one, and a line of hummers, the checkpoint where she must slow. They will not like her duct tape mittens, as if her hands were very cold. But she cannot roll down the window with her hands stuck at 10 and 2. Is it very hot inside her womb as she moves faster down the street we all travel? Does she cry, my God, or merely Mary? She has ever eschewed the first person pronoun, savoring I like a phosphorescence. It's all the same, isn't it? Whether she is dead before or after impact. Turn your hands up to heaven. Let the eyes of your palms, flaccid as the maws of lilies, look to those clouds. What passes there casts shadows that move away from where they're going and towards you. And then the last one is Madonna as Pelican. And if you have ever looked at medieval bestiaries, the pelican is connected to Christ because the pelican was believed to feed its young on its own blood. You know, very Christ-like image. But I was thinking, well, you know, it's feeding its young, so Madonna. Oh, spare me a little, that I may recover my strength before I go hence, or be no more seen. Awkward as anything built for cumbersome endurance, bulbous with ugly love, with my blood, you suckle the pouch beneath my maw. That's myth, that's Christ, that's why I'm quiet and sustained. My bowed bones are only yours, but feather-webbed and more lonesome.